Hello and welcome to the live stream. Today we're talking all about the Ecamm Live version 4.4, which was released just yesterday. And this feels a little bit like deja vu because I did a pretty similar stream a few weeks ago with the beta release, which is, there haven't been many changes since that in actual fact. So a few extra features, I guess, that were added into the beta in that time. But now they're all public for everyone else. It's always funny when you do these things because there's lots of us that have been using the beta for ages. So these are all features that we've become accustomed to and wouldn't want to be without, and yet for many it's the first time using them. So if you have got any questions all about the Ecamm 4.4 or Ecamm in general for that matter, then feel free to drop them into the chat. I've left a link in the description to the full walkthrough that I did of all of the features, so by all means go and click that and take a look. That's where I go through things step by step, but I will just go through a few of them at a high level to begin with. Hi Taisha, great to see you here in the chat. Thanks for stopping by. By the way, I did see your message come through in the live stream. I did a stream the other week. I was actually guesting on someone else's show, and we were using restream pairs to send it through to YouTube. And then halfway through the interview, I noticed your chat come in saying, are we starting soon? And it was just a restream failure that obviously wasn't streaming it to my channel. So thanks for being here today, and sorry about that time. So let's just start then with a couple of the features. As I say, I won't do a full run through of everything because I did that in that video just yesterday. I guess one of the big ones here is the, oh, and hi, Bob, great to see you. Great to speak to you yesterday on your call, or the day before, wasn't it? But yeah, so the first major thing then is going to be this live motion feature. This is where we can now sort of animate our cameras and overlays and things like that from one scene to the next. I think that this is a really interesting feature, and it's got lots of potential use cases other than just sort of animating things around on the screen. Some really innovative ways that people are using this. Speaking of guesting on things, I was on Martin McKenna and my mind's gone blank now. Martin McKenna and Neil Faramon's vertical live stream the other week, and they do this really great thing where they've got their Zoom participants, multiple sort of cameras on the screen, and obviously with it being vertical, you're a bit more limited on screen real estate, or at least it's, you know, a smaller form factor. So they have their sort of 3 guests and 1 speaker, or 3 other panelists and 1 speaker in Zoom, and they're just kind of like rotating between them to sort of make the person who's speaking a little bit bigger. So maybe it's easier actually to just show you a quick demo of what I mean by that. So let's say you've got a camera on screen, and let's say that this is your sort of main Zoom speaker. Then you've got a few other Zoom speakers. I'll just use different cameras of mine for this for the time being. So let's say we've got camera B there, and whoops, let me just adjust my brightness. The OBSBot does have a habit of changing your brightness, but so let's say we've got this camera here, and we'll make it a bit smaller, and then I'll just duplicate it again and make it this one a different camera. So let's make that one let's go into the camera switcher, see which one's which. Camera C. So let's just say that you've got sort of 3 Zoom speakers, and you want to have one is the sort of focus. Just ignore the exact layouts here. So now if I just duplicate this scene though, and I'll obviously make a bit of a mess of this, but let me just put this one up here, and then we'll move this one over to here. You just have to imagine that this is all nice and neat and tidy in the actual final thing. And then I'll drop this one down to here, and then we'll duplicate it again. We're basically trying to set up like a sort of rotation, if you like, of speakers. So now I'll put this one up here. I'll put this one over here. This one down at the bottom. As I say, just imagine I'm getting all the sizes exactly correct. I would spend a little bit more time on this normally. But now what you've got is you've got these different cameras. So we've got this scene, but watch what happens when I go back to this first one. It sort of rotates us around. So you could have like a rotation of speakers. So this works really well on that vertical live stream that Martin and Neil do, because as I say, on a phone, when you've got space down at the bottom for all the comments and stuff coming up on the vertical stream on YouTube or on LinkedIn or wherever, so then there's like a little row of speakers, and then the main speaker at the top, and then they sort of rotate around between them. So a nice little effect. So lots of ways that you can use this. I will just once again give my little warning. I think so many people are going to try and completely replace PowerPoint and Keynote now with Ecamm. Ecamm's design tools for me are still not there in terms of precise layouts. So like, for example, in Keynote, you throw a load of bullet points onto the screen and then just say, you know, distribute vertically or horizontally so it gets them all nice and evenly spaced, or align left, align center. I don't mean like the text alignment. I mean, actually, you've got 3 different items on the screen and you just all want them to be completely in alignment. Then those are things that you're still going to want to use, for me at least, things like Keynote or PowerPoint. So I'm still of this mindset that I keep Ecamm for live production, and presentations themselves are for Keynote and PowerPoint. And the reason I kind of keep saying this is obviously I love Ecamm and all the production quality that we can add to our setups. It's just that I always talk about this thing of muscle memory and being able to just press a scene which is going to go to your presentation scene, however you're bringing that in, whether you are sort of incorporated it in it as an immersive presentation, or whether you've got your camera overlay over the top of it and you know, you're integrating it in that way. Whatever the case is, you get this real muscle memory of knowing that, okay, now I'm on this scene, now I'm on my, you know, other camera, now I'm on my screen share, and then I might well have another one which is just for Keynote, and you can just remember those few buttons, and then you've got the button to sort of advance through your slides. So yeah, that's my view on that. But I'm all for experimenting. As I say, there's so many unique and innovative ways that we can use all of these things here. So hey, Paul, great to see you. Thanks for stopping into the chat. If you've got any questions about the, obviously, not to you, Paul. I know you know this thing inside out. But if anyone's got any questions about the latest update, then feel free to drop those into the chat. Another thing then, apart from the live motion, and as I say, there's so many options we can do for this. I'll do a stream at some point, or a video with a load of these sort of other ways that we can use live motion other than just sort of simple transitions like this sort of thing. By the way, since I am sharing that screen, I should probably do a little shameless plug. If you want to get the most out of Ecamm Live, get the Ecamm Live Masterclass at ecammlivemasterclass.com. That is a complete, it's a complete masterclass. It's a complete course all about Ecamm Live. There are 150 lessons in there, and we've got some quick start guides in there too. So basically, if you're a bit daunted by the idea of doing 150 lessons, then just do the first 13, because that will really get you up to speed. I am going to be adding in some updates to this, obviously, now that we've got some updates to the software. They're not actually in there yet. It's been a bit of a busy week and month, busy month, I should say, this last month with running the Ecamm Live Accelerator and then the Digital Stage Summit next week. But after that, I will be updating these videos to get some new ones in to cover all of the new features. But yeah, if you want to get up and running with Ecamm, that's a great way to go about it. So another then feature that was added in with something that I love is the PTZ Camera Control, so pan, tilt, zoom. And there's just this really nice integration. Having said I'm not going to do a full tutorial on it, I feel I'm going in that direction, but I will just explain this once again for those that didn't see the other video. In the Ecamm settings now, in the Ecamm utility windows, we now have one for any PTZ cameras that we've got. So PTZ standing for, as I say, pan, tilt, and zoom. And you can see we've got this camera over here. And if I switch to that particular camera now, wrong one. This one. Oh, do you know what it is? I switched around some of my placeholder cameras setting up for this. So let me just adjust this. This one, let's make that camera B, and it's upside down. Perfect. Let me show you how easy it is to rotate cameras then. Perhaps we'll do that. Rotate. There we go. So now we're rotated the right way. But what we can do now is we can move that camera around with this little joystick. So we can move that around. I can show you all my wires, show you all the things hanging off my ceiling. And the thing that's really great about this, though, is we've got these preset positions down here, which previously we used to have to do in the OBSBot settings themselves. And by the way, I say OBSBot, that just happens to be the cameras that I'm using, but it works with pretty much all PTZ cameras. I'm going to say there's probably some that it doesn't, but generally it does work with all of them. But we've got these different presets, and we can recall any of those preset positions. If I go to preset position 2, and click on that one, big difference there. Another one over here. You can see my table in the background. I've been reorganizing my office, so I've got my table of shame there with all of my older unused cables on. But the thing that's great about this, though, is that as well as being able to just record the different positions, we can actually assign those to their own placeholder cameras. So this one over here, we've got the Tiny 2 is on camera B, but we've also got the Tiny 2 with a different preset here on this camera, camera F as well. And what that means is that if we put that on preset 1, what that means is that if we have a scene set up like this, which is got the camera B, but then we create another scene, whoops, let me just duplicate that instead. So I'll duplicate that. And then in this one, if we change that to camera, what was it again? Camera F. Then the point about it is when you change to that scene, it's going to automatically move the PTZ camera. So that's a great way to, have these predefined positions locked into a particular scene. So I really like that as a function because I have been using the obspots for a while now. So I've got all of the obspots, the tail air. I've got 3 of these in the studio. There's the Tiny 2 and then the Meet 2 as well. The Meet 2, by the way, is this one that's just over my shoulder. So it's just up there. Now, funnily enough, the Meet 2 is one that isn't actually a PTZ camera itself. It is a sort of fixed camera, but it still has sort of fake PTZ controls, I should say. Maybe that's not the right one. Virtual PTZ controls might be better, which is where it's basically just sort of can zoom in. And then once you zoom in, you can pan and tilt across the screen in that sense. So being able to have these sort of set up and locked into particular positions though in advance is really great because, as I say before, I used to use the obspot app itself on the desktop, or I would use the obspot remote, but then you're kind of having to press those buttons in addition to switching scenes and so on. So the fact that it's all kind of baked in here is just really nice because they're just locked into those particular positions. So the other thing then would be and I should say on there, you can also activate the AI tracking as well. To be honest, I don't use AI tracking because I'm pretty motionless on the screen anyway. And I always find that with the AI tracking on these things, because they can be activated by, hand gestures and things like that. And sometimes my hands have a habit of flailing about when I'm talking. So I usually activate it at the worst possible time. So I tend not to use the AI tracking, but you can change up all of those things. By the way, the AI tracking on these things is actually phenomenal. So I work with a number of people who use these in their more active setup. So one is actually a sports coach who uses one out on a field, and it's tracking, runners and people like that as they're doing their different drills and things. And the actual quality of the tracking of them is phenomenal. There's a sort of demo on one of their on the obspot site, in fact, of people running through woodland between trees, and that might seem like, well, that's a bit of an odd demonstration, but it's the fact that it doesn't actually lose the tracking. Once it's locked onto somebody, it will just fix onto them. Same if they're sort of running through a crowd and things like that. So yeah, it's a great AI tracking features, just not for me, who's pretty still here. So then the other thing then, which is another one that should really come with a major warning, are these audio effects. And this is what do they call it? Audio filters, I should say. This is where you can add these different effects to your voice, and it's not about just silly gimmicky effects. It's about audio processing, dynamic audio processing. So things like compression, a noise gate, for example, so that when you're not talking, it either reduces the audio passing through your mic, or it cuts it out completely as well. You've got low pass filter, high pass filter. Those sort of knock out different tones, or frequencies, I should say. So if you've got like the hum of road noise in the background, you can adjust things to take those out. The reason why I say it should come with a bit more of a warning is because if you've got it on, you can't actually hear yourself what's going on. And I know when it came out in beta, day one, there were lots of people who did recordings or went into Zoom calls not realizing that they'd got some weird effect on. So you do activate it by clicking on this new audio filter. Like this, and then if we go into the settings of it, then you can choose all of these different plugins. As I say, like the dynamic processor is compressor. That is one thing that you will hear people talk about a lot, where it's basically to level out the volume or the levels of your audio. So it's going to basically potentially boost up the lower volumes and reduce the higher volumes so that it's more even for listeners. Things like graphic EQ as well. And when you click on any one of these, then you're going to get things like this. So this is, you will be familiar with what a graphic equalizer does. It's basically adjusting all of these different frequencies. This is high pitch, this is low pitch. And so if you wanted to boost the bass up, for example, and boost the treble up, then you could be making adjustments like this. So you've got all this sort of fine tune adjustment of it. The thing to note though is that, as I say, I mean, this one's probably not one of the dangerous ones. One of the dangerous ones might be something like, the high pass filter, for example. This is where you're basically knocking out audio at this lower end of the spectrum. Now, at the moment, I haven't got these applied. I am going and making these settings. The trouble is that as soon as you click on apply it to a particular microphone, so if I click on this main one and actually just activate it here as well, what you're going to hear is that when I activate it on this main mic, my audio is going to change. And what I want you to understand is that I can't hear any difference. So if I toggle it on, then you'll hear a change. Not for those watching in Zoom, by the way, because it's coming through the Rodecaster, but for those watching on YouTube, you'll hear that there is a change there. Also, just note this little icon down at the bottom, so this little jigsaw piece. When you have got any effects on, you'll see that little symbol will illuminate green. And that's the thing to watch for, because right now I would imagine this is verging on unlistenable if I got this too high, because it's going to be cutting out all of the tones. Now, obviously, you wouldn't just go and set these randomly like I've just done. You would go through and go through the process of getting it set up. So the point here is, when I say it's dangerous, that's not to say it's a feature to be avoided. Absolutely not. What I'm saying is, though, without getting all dialed in first and being able to hear the output, then you want to make sure you can hear it first. One of the ways you can do that is go to output from up here and turn on the audio monitor. The only trouble with that is there is a delay on it, so you can't leave that on all the time. But at least to get your audio dialed in, that is one way to do it. You basically just need to be able to listen to the output, and ideally live, because you could obviously make a recording, but then you're not going to be able to make those fine tweaks. So that would be one thing to do, is just have the audio monitor on while you get all the things adjusted, and then turn it off again, and then just know that as you're speaking, it's got all of those audio effects on it. So it's slightly different to the Rodecaster, for example, which is the hardware device that I'm using on my desk over here. So this has all that same sort of audio processing on it, but I can actually hear live what's going on. So I hear in my ear I'm monitoring my own audio, so I can hear what that sounds like. Now, as I say, that's not to say that this feature is to be avoided. It's got so many great audio processing capabilities that what it means is, well, perhaps you don't need a Rodecaster, perhaps you don't need, a third-party piece of software now, because we can do so much in here. I will be adding in an entire module into the Ecamm Live Masterclass all about these, because it just takes a little bit of understanding. Audio is a little bit I guess new to a lot of folks, other than speaking and the audio coming in, what are all of these different processes, and what effect do they have on? And more to the point, like, what is it that you should be looking for in your existing audio that you could potentially be, improving using this, where you've just got your regular mic going into Ecamm. So I will be adding in some videos all about each one of these, and showing how to dial things in, basically, and explaining a little bit more about audio. So that'll be coming into the Ecamm Masterclass very soon. I will do some videos on YouTube about it as well, but there's just as you can see, too many to go through in a single demo video. And also, I can't hear what's happening, so it's I've got to be able to monitor myself while I'm demonstrating it. So, but that is actually a really great new feature that's been added. But just note that if you're playing around with it, once again, a little public safety warning, stream safety warning, is just make sure that thing there, if you have been playing around with it and are not sure what it's doing, you want to make sure that's show audio filter is not selected. So let me just come and check in with the chat a little bit. Hey there, Paul. Once again, there is a noise suppression filter that does what Crisp does. That's actually a really good, a really good point. But it's also really good because I was talking about Crisp in one of our office hours sessions yesterday for the Academy, and Crisp seems to have added in a whole load of new features. And it used to do one thing really well, which was the voice noise suppression. And then now they've added in all these other things, and I recommended it to somebody and they installed it, and then it started doing all these other things and taking over various different aspects of audio. So I haven't actually played with the noise suppression feature in here though, so I definitely will give that one a look as well, and see how easy that one is to use. So let's have a look. Where is it? I'll play around with that when I'm not live. Here I am, just about to go down a rabbit hole with it. But thanks for mentioning that. That's great. The other thing then related to audio, there was one I think I actually missed out on the video that I did yesterday, which was I did talk about how you've got now, if you're using multi-track audio, I think this is going to be very niche. One of the things I'll say is these audio things will these audio effects were things that were asked for by people who were doing more sort of pro level audio, and one of those as well was this ability, if you've got a multi-track mixer, to basically assign any of the tracks to any of the channels, like left and right, in your Ecamm setup. Now, this is something that, if you're not sure what this does, you likely don't need it. So I'll just leave it there. But if you've been waiting for multi-track inputs into Ecamm, then that's where you can set it. I am hoping as well to get multi-track outputs, or rather be able to select the output for each individual channel, because now that we've got virtual channels on Rodecaster, I should say, we could have, the mic could go. Let me go into the settings. This is not a feature. This is my feature request. If you go into the audio here, where you select your speakers, that's basically where the entire Ecamm feed is going out to there. I'd love to be able to actually select the individual output for the movie, for the sound effects, system audio, and things like that. Because then, as I say, with the virtual channels that we've got on the Rodecaster, it would mean that you could then have each individual Ecamm channel going to an individual fader. There is a way you can do that with MIDI, but this would be a lot easier. But anyway, that's a feature request rather than an actual feature. I digress though. One of the things that I forgot to mention in my video yesterday was this one. The system audio, you can actually now choose a specific app that you want audio to come in from, rather than just it be all system audio. So if you want to sort of grab the audio from a particular thing, you can do that in there now. So let's see. There's a question just come in since I'm talking about Rodecaster from Bob. Just let me come over to here. Where are you? The first two tracks on Rodecaster Duo are stereo right, rather than just say the main mic. If you mean in the sense of this that I just showed, the first two tracks in there are in fact, yes, it's the left and right of the main feed coming in. So in the Rodecaster, channel 1 and 2, it's not actually related to the physical channels on the Rodecaster as such. Channel 1 and 2 are mapped to the left and right channel of the entire mix. So that's why this is selected. I honestly wouldn't be using this if I wasn't demonstrating it. So I don't normally have my Rodecaster set to this multi-track output, because you only really need that on the Rodecaster if you're feeding into some sort of production where you want to feed in those individual channels into here. But in terms of Ecamm, I'm doing all of the audio routing on the Rodecaster itself. So ordinarily, I wouldn't actually have this enabled in here at all. But yeah, that channel 1 and 2 is not actually related to channel 1 and 2 that you would be familiar with on the Rodecaster itself, as in the fader 1 and 2. It is specifically for the stereo mix that's coming out. I think in this sense that channel 3 is effectively the mic, channel 4 is let's see, channel 3 and 4 are effectively the next ones along. But anyway, that's what that is. So yeah, it's not related to those faders. Hopefully that makes sense. I'll take the thumbs up as the fact that it did. So thanks, Bob. Yeah, so yeah, some great audio advancements in here, and as always, I always say this, but Ken and Glenn are not actually using this software day in, day out themselves, like in a live production environment. So they they're not doing. I suppose they do a little bit, but not as much as some of the users in the Ecamm group. So they're not doing like regular live streaming. Perhaps not even regular Zoom sessions where they're using all of these things, apart from obviously the monthly Q&A where they demonstrate it and so on. But the point is that they are therefore listening entirely to the requests from the community. So if you have got any feature requests or things that you'd like to see done differently with Ecamm, then drop them into the community, because it's the most wonderful place to share what you're doing, but also put in these feature requests, and they're certainly monitoring that themselves. And yeah, it's funny. Sometimes people will say, it'd be really great if we have a Stream Deck button to do X, Y, and Z, and X, Y, and Z for translate for our American friends. And they'll sometimes see it and think, oh yeah, that's easy. Let's just drop that straight in. So they certainly listen to the users and what they want in, and that's really what's driven these audio features that have been added in. People have been asking for them for a while. I'll just go on to the Zoom things. This is probably going to be another easy demonstration, hopefully. But one of the things that's been added in with Zoom is related to the active speaker, or actually a few things around the active speaker. Now, that is that when you are in Zoom, you can set up a scene that has, let's say, you and a guest. So here we've got me and guest one. You can also have a scene set up that instead of guest one, it's got active speaker. Now, the way that this works in Ecamm For Zoom is you can see we've got other participants in here, but it's going to drop people into here only if you actually add them specifically. So I could add somebody here as a camera feed, and then they are available to be assigned for like guest placeholder number 1, number 2, number 3, and so on. Well, the active speaker, though, is using the Zoom active speaker feature, which basically means that whoever is speaking is, front and center on camera in Zoom if you're using that active speaker mode, but it also is basically presenting that camera feed to Ecamm as well. Now, the thing that's been changed then is that if we go into our Zoom settings here, it used to be, first of all, that you needed to activate it in here, which you still do. So where is it gone? There is include active speaker camera, and the place where this will show up, by the way, I kept missing this in the very first time this was released in beta, because it doesn't come in all sources. So it's not a camera source in here. It does actually come in as a placeholder camera, which I guess kind of makes sense because it is the active speaker placeholder. But just note that when you toggle it on in here, if I say show active speaker, it's going to toggle it on and off in that AB camera switcher section just there. So that's where the Zoom active speaker is in there. But then you can just drag and drop it and add it into your scene wherever you want. The thing that's changed, though, is previously, even if you were using the active speaker, you would have still had to have added the people who you wanted to potentially appear in there when they were speaking, which was fine if you were just doing a thing with, a few people, a couple of people, maybe like a podcast or something like that, where you've got you and maybe 2 other hosts or something. But it wasn't very useful if you were then wanting to do things like a workshop where you had a Q&A section and you just wanted whoever was asking the question to be able to drop into that position. So now it does happen sort of automatically. The only thing you do need to do, though, is if ever you're capturing audio from from Zoom, I should say, is you just need to come into here and click on this new option, which was added into this version as well, start capturing audio and video. And what happens then is once you do that, it's not going to actually add in any cameras as a feed here, but if somebody was speaking in Zoom, they would just automatically drop in here without doing this. So it means that as part of your setup for the workshop or whatever, step 1 is just to come and start capturing audio from the beginning here, and then if you've got a Q&A, you could just go over to a scene that looks like this, and then when somebody comes off mute in Zoom and speaks, they're just going to automatically drop into this position. I really like that because it means that when you do workshops with Q&As, it's just so easy to have people come up and be included in the production itself. And you may think, well, what's the point of that when they can see each other anyway in Zoom? For me, it really comes down to the the replay value that you then have for things like workshops that are in Zoom, where you want to have people just come up on the screen, or indeed if you're using Zoom as a backstage. So, for example, in the Digital Stage Summit, which is running next week, then there'll be an option for people to come and ask questions and bring them up on screen. And again, it's just, you don't need to do any of the assigning of guests or anything like that. So that's great. One of the things I should probably mention then, I've just mentioned it, so I should probably say a bit more about it, is the Digital Stage Summit, which is coming up next week. And that is digitalstagesummit.com. We've got some amazing speakers, and we've just added a couple more in yesterday, actually, which are not on the site. So Robert Kennedy III is going to be speaking, and we've also got Mr. Camera Junkie as well, who's going to be doing a session all about cameras. So a few more sessions to add in here as well, but we've just got so many amazing speakers. It's going to be over 3 days, 11 hours a day, basically, and I simply wouldn't be able to do this without Ecamm For Zoom, because I'm effectively running 3 instances of Ecamm For Zoom. I'm also running 2 other separate Zoom sessions that are, or it's actually 2 Zoom sessions, but with multiple sort of entries from Ecamm For Zoom across 3 computers, and then also one for Zoom Tiles, which is putting a Zoom wall sort of behind me, and then another one that I'm using just for the timing. So yeah, Ecamm For Zoom is pretty sort of pivotal in all of this to be able to run the event, and then all of the transitions, the magic, the live video and so on, things like that is really what's making it all possible. And it is kind of amazing what we can do now with Ecamm, that we can put on a full-on, international virtual event with multiple speakers coming in, and in theory, touch wood, just have that all nicely, seamlessly streaming out to first of all the main event feed, but then the event is free to attend. There is a VIP pass that you can get where you get lifetime access to the replays, and then also part of that is you'll also get access to a Zoom backstage as well. And so that's what I'm talking about with one of these extra instances of Zoom. So yeah, it's just an amazing event. We've got some amazing sponsors as well, actually. Elgato, as well as Ecamm, obviously, is the center of everything, but also Elgato, Rode, and OBSBot. And I wouldn't be able to do it without their products, honestly, as well. I mean, I mentioned OBSBot. I've got multiple cameras. I'm actually using a Sony ZV-E10 for my main camera, but this is an OBSBot Tiny 2. I probably need to use this adjustment to adjust my camera. Let me just move that up a bit. There you go. It's so simple now with Ecamm. I've got the Meet 2 behind me. There's a couple of other OBSBots around me, and there will be another one in the mix by the time we do the event as well. So yeah, OBSBot are making some great cameras. And then obviously it's all been controlled by Stream Deck, having just moved my thing up. Let me just adjust that again. So here we go. I've got the sort of setup for the event is there are 3 Stream Decks here that are going to my primary computer. And then I've got a secondary computer that I'm running some of those other Zoom instances on. This Stream Deck is going to that. And I am actually using the Rodecaster Video. Now, ordinarily, I use the just Ecamm for all of my production. And I normally say that if you are doing anything with a software camera switcher such as Ecamm or OBS, then you wouldn't necessarily want to use an external hardware switcher like the Rodecaster Video or the A10 Mini, because basically they're trying to do the same thing, and then it means that Ecamm is only seeing one single feed from the Rodecaster Video, so it means that you're then having to do your switching from the Rodecaster. Now that might seem fine, because like right now I've got this one scene set up that's taking my feed from the Rodecaster Video, and if I just press the button on the Rodecaster Video, then I can control which camera is being shown. So this is my top-down camera, this is this other camera angle over here, slightly out of focus at the moment, and this is my main camera. So now I'm effectively doing camera switching in Ecamm, and you might think, well, that's fine. Why not do that then? Because then you've got all your cameras coming into the Rodecaster Video, you've got your audio coming in over microphones. The only issue is that you can't actually have any 2 of those cameras available to the computer, to Ecamm. Let's say if you wanted to have a top-down shot with your front-on camera in the corner or something like that, which is a scene that I used to use, so that if I'm demonstrating stuff with the top-down, then I'm still showing, I can still be on screen at the same time. And that's where the camera switcher, the hardware switcher, then sort of lets you down, because you can only present one camera at a time to the computer. However, I am using the Rodecaster Video in this particular setup because in the latest update to the Rodecaster Video, and by the way, I think hands down, the Rodecaster Video is the best hardware camera switcher. The Ecamm, it's a really great and popular piece of hardware that people love, but it's definitely coming over from more of a traditional broadcast background. And what I've found is that folks that are just don't come from a broadcast background find it, not necessarily intuitive to use. It's a pain to actually go in and set up scenes and change things. As I say, it's not if you're used to broadcast, but if you're just a normal folks like me, then it's not the most intuitive. And so that's why I never ended up using an Ecamm myself. I did look into it extensively, but I'm so glad I found Ecamm. However, Rodecaster Video solves all of those problems, and it's so intuitive to use. I mean, I got mine out of the box and had it up and running in a matter of hours, in fact. So when I did my full review of the Rodecaster Video, although they sent it to me quite early, really, for review, I only took it out of the box the day before the embargo lifted on creating content. And I basically spent like a few hours on day one in just getting it all set up. It seemed totally intuitive. The next day I spent creating a keynote presentation about all the features. So it was really up and running in a day effectively. But I digress. One of the things that's been added into a recent update is that it's got 4 HDMI inputs and also a couple of extra USB camera inputs as well. But what it's also got is 2 HDMIs out. Now, what they've allowed you to do now, if I can get my camera under control, saying how easy this is to use, I probably should have set up this scene in advance, is for the 2 HDMIs out, you can now route the audio, video coming in from any one of the HDMIs out to that. So what actually I'm able to do now with the Rodecaster Video is, as well as feeding it into my main computer, I can also have a separate camera feed into another Zoom session on the same computer, which is just my primary camera. And then I've also got another feed going into that secondary computer. So as well as the Rodecaster Pro 2 being used for audio routing or routing, I'm able to do video routing with the Rodecaster Video as well. I could technically be running all the audio through it as well. I just like the faders on the Rodecaster Pro 2. Somebody asked if there was any sort of particular bit of dream hardware that I would love to have that exists or doesn't exist. What I'd really love is a Rodecaster Pro 2 with the Rodecaster video switching down at the bottom, and then also be able to present all of those individual cameras into the computer as individual camera feeds as well. And then you could basically be using the video switching and routing capabilities, the audio routing, and then still have that all going into Ecamm to be able to choose any one of those cameras appearing in Ecamm. But that is more feature requests and not about Ecamm at all. Hey, Victor, it's great to see you here. I see. Have you moved to the Philippines full time now, or have you just been spending a lot of time there? But great to see you in here. Moving over to my side of the world potentially. And Bob, let's see. Zoom integration means that guest mode will start to disappear. Well, so if you guest mode, so interview mode is something that they have in Ecamm. There's no plans to scrap that, because bear in mind that although you might have a Zoom account, I've got a Zoom account. Zoom is an extra piece of software that people have to pay for, an extra service, an extra subscription. So interview mode for Ecamm has got no plans to go away at all, because lots of people don't have a Zoom subscription, and if they just want to do a podcast and bring in a guest, then interview mode is still a great option. Personally, because I do have a Zoom account, I'm not using interview mode now, because it's for me to be able to just send somebody a Zoom link and have it all integrated with my calendar and everything like that, it just makes so much more sense. And from a guest point of view, it's going to be a familiar interface for them as well. So the interview mode is something that is in Ecamm for the people who don't know. This is a pro feature in Ecamm, as is the Zoom, in fact. But this is this little icon here, so interview mode. And when you open up that window, where's it open up? It's probably opened up behind another window. But basically in this one now, you can send somebody a link and they're going to join in the browser, and then select their mic and camera, their mic and camera, I should say. And then you can basically add them into the production in the same way that we talked about with Zoom, as either guest 1 to 10, in fact. So yeah, one of the reasons why it won't be going away is because yes, folks just don't have Zoom necessarily. That's not necessarily a given. The other reason is you may want to use both of them together. So there are instances where you perhaps want to have your speakers come in on interview mode, but then have the feed go out to a Zoom session. If you didn't want to have them all in the same place, you might have speakers coming in on the interview mode, and then have the other session running separately on Zoom. But for me, as I say, I'm just doing everything fully Zoom. But it's nice to have that option. The other thing I personally, with the interview mode, you can get issues on the guest side where there might be a slight lag, or it might be the resolution might not be as great on the return feed. Now, the reason for that is that they say Ecamm says, well, we want to prioritize the incoming stream for the live production because that's what matters most, rather than the return feed. However, as somebody who's running the event, you're probably used to all of these things, but it's the guests are the ones that could potentially be thrown off by things like lower resolution or whatever. So anyway, but that's why I still will be using Zoom pretty much exclusively, but why the interview mode is not going anywhere. By the way, for those using Zoom, they did sort of quietly roll out this change in the Zoom pricing plans, whereby it used to be, if I just go and grab them up here, it used to be that it was a pro plan here, $13 a month billed annually, and this one had a maximum resolution of 720, whereas if you are on a business plan, then it was 1080. The problem was that the business plan always used to be a minimum of 10 users. So although it is $18 a month, although it's $18 a month, you needed a minimum of 10 people. So it was $180 a month, which was kind of, defeated the purpose really, and was out of reach for many sort of solopreneurs who just wanted to get that higher resolution. They have now changed that. So anybody who's considering, and then there was this thing of people basically being resellers for Zoom Enterprise, where you could sign up to somebody's Zoom club effectively and be part of their organization. I never joined one of those myself because I always wanted to have the full sort of control of everything myself under my own account, and didn't necessarily want to be part of those. I know there are some reputable ones, but there were also some that weren't so reputable, and people were, getting their account shut down and losing money from it as well. So that's why I never went down that route. I also looked at setting up my own legitimate Zoom club, but I just decided it was too much admin and I didn't have time for it. But anyway, it's been solved now because on business, and it may not be rolled out everywhere at the moment. It may be sort of coming, because I know some people have checked and it's not quite there yet for them. But basically now it's just, you can get a business Zoom account for just $18 a month billed annually, or $21 billed monthly. 22 billed monthly, and then that's going to give you that 1080p. So if you want to get 1080p resolution on Zoom, that is the way to do it now. There is also another way though, which kind of, there is some extra features in this, is you could still stay on the Pro, go to events and webinars, and then if you've got any of these packages here, then it also gives you that 1080p. Now, they announced this last year in October or something like that, and saying, if you sign up to Zoom events, then you can get the 1080p. However, when we went and looked at the plans, it was like, oh, right, well, that's still like the cheapest one here is $99 a month. So we're still no better off really, because if we're on a sort of $20 Pro Zoom plan and we just want to get 1080p, we're not going to pay $100 a month more. And even when they talked about it, Zoom themselves, this was where they were sort of directing people to. The thing, though, is that if you change this to, let's see, a pay per attendee subscription down here, you click pay per attendee, have the minimum number of attendees, which is 50, and now suddenly you've actually got only $100 for the entire year. So that basically is another way to get the 1080p, is come in and use one of these pay per attendee plans and just add on the thing like that. That's something that I did actually precisely 2 days before they changed the limitation on the business plan. But what this does also give you is all of the Liminal apps. So Liminal is a company that was bought by Zoom, and this is what gave Zoom ISO the ability to bring out isolated video feeds from Ecamm. It's also kind of what the architecture that Ecamm for Zoom was built on in a way. But so we don't need that feature anymore. But there is another great feature in there called Zoom Tiles. That's something I'm going to be using for the event. event. So if ever you want to do a Zoom event and have like a wall of participants that you can create a custom grid basically that doesn't just look like a regular Zoom panel, then that's something that you've got in there. And there's a couple of other apps that you can use in that as well. So in the end, I've done this to be able to use some of those liminal apps, but then I've also as well, I have upgraded to the business here because you get other features in this as well. So if you are looking for 1080p and you're currently on a pro plan, it's now a lot more accessible to get that upgrade to resolution. If you go to the business plan, it does just go in there automatically. You don't have to do the thing where you request it to be added. Oh, I beg your pardon. Sorry, that's if you do the events and webinars thing. It automatically upgrades your resolution. If you on the business, you will need to send them that email just to say, hey, come on, give me what I'm entitled to. Which is, I wish they just turn that on by default for folks. But there you go. So let's just see what Paul. Whoops, wrong scene, wrong thing. There we go. Paul is saying, at the moment, no plans to retire interview mode. You might have noticed we are not deducting minutes from your account. You mean if using Zoom, or you mean there's no minutes being deducting from interview mode? I hadn't noticed that. So if you mean that there's no minutes going at all, I won't say anything in case I'm misspeaking there, but I hadn't noticed that because I haven't looked in at interview mode. So is that something different that I'm not aware of? That would be good to know. So what else was added in then to the Ecamm for Zoom? Oh, so the other couple of things. That was a big sort of 20-minute digression there. The other thing then about Ecamm for Zoom is Spotlight. So if you are doing a production, then you want to spotlight yourself to make you sort of full screen for everyone. It's now just here as a feature in the top, whereas previously you would have had to have done that in your Zoom participants panel. So you can always come in here and spotlight, but now it's built into that Zoom window. So Paul's saying interview mode is what that minutes is. So basically there isn't a limit on the interview mode minutes. Am I getting that right, Paul? That at the moment there's no actual limit on the amount of interview mode minutes you've got. If that's true, I was completely unaware. That is awesome, because yeah, you normally were limited to the number of minutes that you have on there. The interview mode, the Zoom active speaker mode as well is something which is now a button on Stream Deck. So if you go into Ecamm for Zoom, then you will see that you've got not active speaker mode, I beg your pardon, Spotlight. So now you can put a button to toggle that on and off, so that you're just on Spotlight for everybody. And I probably should have done that in my Zoom session. There we go. I probably should have done that a long time ago. For those that hadn't pinned it. So we've got a Zoom backstage going, and yeah, if ever I'm late, we can blame these people, because we usually just waffle on about things. It's my fault entirely. I'm just so happy chatting away that I often forget the time. So that is one thing. While we're in here, another couple of buttons then that they added in, since we are in here, is what are they? One of them is for pause sound. This feels like something that you would have just thought would have been there all the time, but it actually wasn't. That any sound effect that's playing, you can hit a button and just pause it and start it again, regardless of which sound is playing. There is a button to play a specific sound and stop a specific sound, but actually just like, yeah, quit the audio and start it again was a dedicated button in there. And the other one then is this start new recording. If you are just in a flow of a recording and you press this button, it's just basically going to start a new recording. So then you would get 2 files at the end of it. And same with if you're in a live stream. So if you're live streaming and you want to sort of chunk up your video, your stream into shorter videos, like on the fly as you're doing it, then that would be one way to do it. Just press this button and it's going to start a new recording and just continue on with the stream. So those are the 3 new buttons that were added into Stream Deck. If you've got any buttons that you would like to see in Stream Deck, as I mentioned, they are always open to feature requests and things like that. And yeah, Paul is saying correct that there's no limit on minutes now. I had no idea. That is awesome. Yeah, that is awesome. what are the other things that have been added in then? Let's just have a quick look at my my list. As I say, I won't go through all of them because I did do the full run through, and I'm verging on the on doing the whole video again right here. But yeah, mainly those are the sort of core features I would say is the Ecamm For Zoom updates, the audio, and then obviously the cameras with that PTZ control, and then the live motion control as well. And then, as I say, a few Stream Deck buttons put in there as well. A few other sort of tweaks that we've got. Just looking down at my notes, I don't normally have scripts for my videos, and I don't normally even have sort of outlines, but obviously with the Ecamm video yesterday, I have a list of bullets, but even so, because there were so many of them, then I obviously missed a couple out during that, here we go, a couple during that that video. So this was my outline for my video. Some people ask if ever I script them. Hopefully it's pretty obvious with all the sidetracks and rabbit holes that I go down that it's not scripted, but I do have that list of features at least for this. But as I say, it's such a long list. I mean, the updates for Ecamm are always so so good when they come out, and I feel like I'm just basically repeating the intro to every single Ecamm update video I've done for like the past 4 years now. Every time there's been a beta update or a major release as well, I've done my video, and it always starts the same way. New version just released, and it's an amazing update because they generally always are. Yeah. So now, if you are using the beta, by the way, you still can just continue to use that. They're effectively just identical at the moment, but then at some point there will be some, likely some minor updates to both of them, you know, as there are potentially some extra little things to iron out going forward, but usually not so many of those. But then at some point they will get onto the next round of feature requests that everyone has been dropping in. I've got a big list. I've actually got really quite a long list of feature requests, but I've just held off it whilst they've been busy putting out all the new one. I always feel ungrateful when, you know, we get a great release with all these new features. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. But how about all of these things? So, yeah. Bob, Bob asks this question, which is great. Oh, I keep pressing this wrong button today. I talk about muscle memory, and for some reason, my muscle memory is going because I'm not pressing the button I normally press. Just to clarify, if someone else is running the Zoom meeting, you can't take control of it. You can't take control of it unless you're made like a host or co-host, in terms of, you know, just Ecamm For Zoom doesn't give that ability. However, you can totally, you know, if you're using Ecamm For Zoom, you can still see all the participants. You can still bring them into your production, but what you need to do is click on the button to add participant, for example. So if you're looking at something that looks like this, where you see, if you were joining this Zoom session that I've got running right now, for example, Bob, then you would still see all these participants. You could still click on them to add them in. And then what would happen is, on my side as the host, it would pop up with a thing to say, you know, Bob wants to access video or something like that, some notification. And I would just click OK. And then you would then be able to do all of the live production without being the host and without being the co-host. So you wouldn't be able to spotlight yourself for everyone. You would have to ask the host themselves to do that, because that is one of the things. Spotlight for everyone is a host or co-host function, but you can totally bring in all the cameras. You can also bring in the comments. In fact, you can bring in the comments without asking, you know, the permission for that. Anything that's in the comment window of, perhaps that's not obvious as well. Let me just show you. I've got meeting chat over here, and then I've also got the Ecamm chat over here. Now, because we're live streaming, this has got, obviously you can see all the YouTube stuff here, but also any comments in Zoom would come into here as well. So these things that I posted here that went into Zoom, they would, I suppose I posted those in YouTube as well, but basically any Zoom comments would come into here as well. So if I just type in here, for example, hi Zoom, that's now only gone into Zoom. It hasn't gone out into the stream, but you'll see that it has popped into this here, and it's also showing the little Zoom icon. So yeah, you don't even need to be the host or co-host or even request permission for that. All of the comments will appear in here. I say they will do that. You actually need to enable that in settings. So if you go into Zoom, settings in Ecamm. Just note this one: add Zoom chat and Q&A questions to the Ecamm comments and reactions window. So that's where you would get anything that you post then in here will come into there. Same then as well, if you post anything in the chat into the Ecamm chat window down here, like if I pop up one of my little promo things that I have. So I have a multi-action setup. So when I go to, where is it here? I've got this thing that pops up where it pops up on the screen with saying, you know, book a call, and it also drops that into the chat. You will have seen that now in the YouTube chat, but that also will go through into the Zoom chat as well, in theory, if I have enabled that. This is so typical. The one time that I go to demonstrate something, it doesn't go through. Now, why would that be? Let me just see if I've done something wrong there. Oh, there we go. It's so typical of me. I go and do a demo, and then obviously it falls flat on its face. If I post in the chat here, so hi, that's going to go into the YouTube chat. I can change this to Zoom and say hi here, and that's going to go into the Zoom chat. But what I should have done here is have post to all selected, and that would then go through into all of them. So yeah, now if I press my little button again, do that promo again. So I'll say book a call, or like that. And now you'll see it's popped up the little animation. It's come through into the YouTube chat, but it's also come through into the Zoom chat as well. So yeah, that is typical of my demos, that they don't actually work when I'm demonstrating them. But yeah, so that's to answer your question. You can totally take control of the video feeds. You will just need to ask permission for it first from the host, basically. So I think that pretty much covers off most of the things. There are a load of features that I haven't just mentioned, but they are all in that main video that I posted, which is linked in the chat. That's the full run through of all of them, except that one about system audio, by the way, that I sort of left out of the thing, not intentionally, but just going through my long list. Then there's a few other tweaks and improvements behind the scenes, you know, with screen sharing and audio capture and things like that. And the Zoom SDK has been updated to the latest one. All the stuff that we don't really need to know about. It's just tweaks that are performance tweaks and things like that. I will say once again, if you haven't already, go and get your ticket for the Digital Stage Summit. That is running next week on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. Eastern time in the US. So I'm going to be pulling 3 all-nighters, having some long naps in the day. But as I say, I couldn't do it all without Ecamm Live. And don't forget that giveaway as well. So if I just drop that into here as well. In fact, that's pinned right to the top of the thing. Did I mention what's involved in that giveaway, by the way? I should probably say that because it's pretty amazing. We've got some awesome sponsors. I'll just drop this into here. Let me grab the link for you, because definitely go and enter this. I mean, I'm doing the giveaway as a way to promote the summit, but you don't have to attend the summit to enter the giveaway. So, and we've got, I think there's been 1,000 people enter so far for the giveaway. So definitely get your entries in. And by the way, when you click to enter, well, first let me say what's involved, what you can win. It's basically this complete setup that you see in the picture. So it's a Rodecaster Duo. I use the Rodecaster Pro 2. The Rodecaster Duo is currently a lighting feature behind me. However, honestly, I would be using the Rodecaster Duo if it wasn't for the fact that I occasionally test microphones and things like that, because it gives me that extra channel. But the Rodecaster Duo is every bit as much as Pro, in my opinion. They should have called it the Rodecaster Pro Mini, I think, because really what makes the Rodecaster a pro tool is the audio routing capabilities and also the audio processing. And the Duo's got all of that built into it as well. The only difference is that you've got 2 mic inputs instead of 4, but apart from that, it's every bit as pro. So yeah, Rode have kindly provided a Rodecaster Duo. They've also got a podcaster mic, the PSA1 mic arm as well, a set of their NTH 100 headphones. These are really awesome headphones. I wear in-ear monitors when I'm on screen. But actually, these are the headphones that I use when I'm listening or watching or anything like that. So they're really great quality headphones. You know, I'm a super Stream Deck nerd fanboy. So Elgato are donating very kindly an Elgato prompter and a Stream Deck Plus. One of the things that came up, I was on Junaid's podcast yesterday, his tools and hacks and hobbies, podcast. I've got a little secret, by the way. I always say that my videos are made in one take with no edits. The irony is the video yesterday about Ecamm was actually made with an edit because I recorded half of it. I then appeared on a podcast in the middle and then I recorded the other half and stuck them together. So technically that was edited. But anyway, one of the questions though was what is a bit of tech that, you know, that is can have the most impact for people's setup after they got a camera and a mic, and you know the lighting obviously got all the essentials, but what's something that makes the biggest difference? And I said, well, actually two things. First of all, if you've only got a single monitor, getting a bit of extra screen real estate, I hate that term used for screens, but the screen real estate can actually make a huge difference. If you're having to juggle positions of windows and things like that on the screen, just an extra monitor can make a world of difference. But apart from that though, a teleprompter as well is something that can really sort of change, first of all, eye contact on Zoom, but also when you are producing to be able to see your output. So like right now, what I see in my teleprompter is I'm looking at the output from Ecamm in there. So it means that it's not just about, you know, looking at yourself, but it means that when I'm looking in there, I can see what's going out. And so people talk about them as a confidence monitor. And for me, that is like the confidence to know that, you know, what you're wanting to go out is what is going out. So like when I switch scenes, I can be sure that, yeah, I'm showing what I need to show. And I can even, you know, rather than referring to my screen over here to the actual thing itself, I could just be looking into the camera and still see where my mouse is pointing and everything like that without looking across at the screen. So, so yeah, the prompter is really great as a sort of plug and play device as a teleprompter. So that is a great thing to have as part of the setup. And then we've got OBSBot as well, who are providing a Tail Air, which is like this, and also the Tiny 2. Now, in actual fact, they have provided two of each of those. So although in here it says it's, you know, whatever it is, 499 and 329, they've very kindly given two now of each of those. But what I've done is I've included one in this giveaway, but then we're going to have a prize draw for this on the final day of the summit. And in addition to the $6,000 worth of prize in this main giveaway, throughout the summit as well, we've got basically another 2,000 worth of gear to give away as well. So or gear and software and services and whatever. So if you enter this one, there's no need to attend the summit, but if you want a chance to win those other prizes as well, then those are going to be done on prize draws during the summit itself. But yeah, Tail Air, these are fantastic little PTZ cameras. Of course, now we can control these all with Ecamm. The Tiny 2 is another little one. It's a smaller camera, hence the name. Really great quality camera. So we've got one of each of those in this main prize draw. And the Tiny 2, this one in particular, you can just pop that into the teleprompter as well, really easily. One of our Academy members has just done that. So they've got their prompter with their Tiny 2 inside it. So these two certainly go together. And then the Tail Air could be another sort of PTZ camera that you have. And this one can work wirelessly over NDI as well. So you could literally have this anywhere in your studio. So yeah, then in addition to that, a year of Ecamm Live Pro. Amazing. By the way, sometimes, occasionally, there will be people who say, I'm not sure about the price of Ecamm. I will always just come back to this thing of it's basically $1 a day. And if you are doing anything with video, either creating video content or you're going into Zoom meetings or whatever, if you can't add $1 worth of value with Ecamm, then probably there's something wrong there, because it's so intuitive and it does make such a difference in your whole live production. But anyway, they're giving a year of Ecamm Pro away for this. Now that's a lot of gear to get set up, and there's lots to learn potentially, especially with the Rodecaster. You know, that's quite a full-featured bit of software. Same with Stream Deck as well. So I'm personally also including a year of VIP access to the Digital Stage Academy as well. And in there we have weekly, you might have heard me talk about our office hour sessions. So I do those at 5 a.m. and 5 p.m. on a Thursday, my time here in Thailand. And that's, you know, we come along, we have discussions about all all things, not just tech, but also the business side of things as well. And so I'm adding a year of subscription to that into the prize. So you got all the support and also 2 hours of one-to-one coaching with me as well. So that basically not only do you win this, but you also get all the support and guidance you need to get it up and running. If you pair that then with the actual Digital Stage Summit itself, 30 speakers over 3 days, pretty much you should be good to go with all of that knowledge and so on. So yeah, it's pretty amazing that first of all of these amazing companies are sponsoring the event. And if you've been watching my channel, you know this isn't just a case of, oh, these companies have agreed to sponsor it, and so now I'm talking about how great they are. I literally use all of these products and services in my setup day in, day out, and they are an essential part of my workflow. And it's actually a reason why I'm even more sort of humbled that all of these amazing companies are supporting the event, because it's been a journey for me the past 4 years of sort of building this channel, building out my studio space from a 10-year-old camera, a single microphone, a single I'm still using a single microphone, but a microphone and a single stream deck, and then the evolution of this has just come on so much with Ecamm, with Rode, with Elgato and Obspot products, that to have them sponsoring the event is just absolutely wonderful. Thanks also, of course, to DocPops. Do you know what? I've not got my DocPop on, and the reason is continuity. I've been recording some videos where I wasn't using a DocPop, and so I wanted to have my same thing on, but I'll pop it on for the for the event for sure. So I keep swapping it back to this plain boring old black one. But DocPops are great if you click on these links. These are all the, look at that, doesn't that look better? Adding a pop of color to your studio setup. So great to have them as well. I'll be using those throughout the event. Home Studio Mastery is the book by Junaid. I mentioned that was on his podcast. This is a great book. You can find a link to it on there. You'll be getting this in the portal as well. 7 stages of home studio mastery, or home studio evolution. So definitely go and check out his book there. And then we've also got Stream Alive. Now, Stream Alive, you're going to be seeing during the event, is a great service for basically audience engagement. So there's loads of great features on there that allow you to, for example, when people ask, where are you coming from? Where are you joining the stream from? And then promptly, don't really do anything don't really necessarily interact with it. Well, this has the ability to have a live map. In fact, I can probably show you the scene that I've got set up. Now, is this just going to fall flat on its face and fail because I've not planned this? Let's try. So here we go. I've got a scene set up here for the summit, and let us know where you're calling from in the chat or joining from, and then what will come up, and it won't come up at the moment because it's not set up, but this will then be a scene where it's basically just a world map, and it's going to drop in with all the pins of where everyone's joining from. So it's a great way to do something that, and this is, as I say, is powered by Stream Alive, and so I'm going to be using this during the event. Also, Stream Alive does things like, where you see like a wheel with a giveaway. That's how I'm going to be running the other giveaways during the event itself, where people, just drop their name in, or it can pick a winner out of all the people who are in the chat. And then it's going to have a little spinning wheel, and we're going to pick out winners for prizes that way. You can also do things like polls, and so on. And what you would see, though, is you wouldn't just see a blank screen like you've seen there. That is a really nice interface when I've got it all set up and open, so that rather than just interacting with the chat by asking a question, it's going to come into here and be all nicely displayed, so that there's a lot more audience interaction. And of course, as you can see here, I'm using Magic Move live motion in Ecamm to nicely sort of switch between these two positions, from asking the question to then the actual results of it as well. So yeah, Stream Alive is another awesome company who are supporting the event. They are also, as part of the giveaway, not in the main giveaway prize, but they're also giving away $1,000 worth of licenses for Stream Alive. It's a really amazing tool, so definitely you don't want to miss out on that. Some of their annual plans stands there that they've got. They've donated some of those. Also Camo as well. I need to add Camo into here. Just a couple of days ago, they're also giving away licenses as well for their software too. So yeah, just amazing to have awesome people involved in the event. So yeah, definitely want to make it along to the live sessions as well, because as I say, it's not just that main giveaway that is going on. It is also the extra products, services, and things like that we're giving away during the event as well. So with that said, I realize I've digressed somewhat off the Ecamm features, but just know that Ecamm is powering all of that event and everything else that I do as well. If you've got any other questions, feel free to drop them into the comments after the live stream has finished. If you're watching on the replay, hopefully see you all at the summit as well. And don't forget, whether you're coming to the summit or not, definitely don't miss out on entering that giveaway. Oh, and by the way, when you enter the giveaway, there are things to get like extra entries. So one of those is to share the giveaway. Now, cynical people might think, well, why would I want to share the giveaway? Because isn't that diminishing my chances of winning them if I'm sharing it out with lots of other people? Well, actually, you get bonus entries every time you share it. And so I can go in and look at the stats, and I can see that there's some people who have basically they're one person, but because they've been sharing it and they've got so many referrals to the giveaway, they've actually got something like 500 or 600 entries themselves. So we've got 1,000 contestants, but we've actually got far more entries. So you want to maximize your chance of winning by getting all of those additional entries out. I can just have a look and tell you actually, because it's pretty cool. I'm using a platform called King Sumo. If you use AppSumo and you're on a paid plan there, then it's part of that. But yeah, if we've got so 975 contestants we've got so far, 25,000 entries. So and the reason why that number is so different is because folks that are sharing it are getting multiple entries for doing the sharing, and also for going and doing a few of the other things on the list there, like checking out the giveaway, checking out the academy, and things like that, to just go and visit those sites. So definitely click all the buttons to maximize your chances of winning that. Okay, that's enough shameless promotion. Thanks so much for dropping by. If you've got any questions, drop them into the comments after the fact, and you can always reach out to me directly if you think I may be any help to you at all. You'll find links for how to do that down in the description as well. I promise at some point I will go through and put in a video over here. I realise that I've been a bit lax at this in the past few weeks, so there's probably just been a blank space there. But anyway, I'll try to get better at that. Have a wonderful day, and I'll see you all next time.